What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Plus Sided Time here on Project Dits. As always, I am much happier than Dara. Dara,
Well, I
another
don't know.
week.
Last night was pretty good, and Europe is all that matters.
This is
Says
true.
the Irishman to the
Yeah.
Englishman.
Says the Liverpool United fans who want firmer grip on those European places.
So
It's
bad.
it's all that matters. Oh, how you doing, Dara? Another week?
Uh, yeah, mixture again, like always, isn't it? 6 defeats at home, which I think is
It's
it's
never
definitely a
happened
club
before.
record. Definitely a club record, yeah.
Klopp breaking all the records. Uh, yeah, we've got a special show. We're actually recording this before the bulk of our episode. We've got Paul from Celtic Fan TV coming back. We thought because Liverpool beat Leipzig last night comfortably, that he was going to be too happy. So we needed to find someone who could kind of bring us down a bit, because we like to operate a level between happiness and sadness. And having us both pull off good results in 1 week doesn't make for an interesting podcast.
Yeah, thank God we won last night, or even went through.
Yeah,
Could you imagine?
we would have
Otherwise,
cancelled on Paul. Would have been like, we don't need you. Liverpool
we are
lost again.
too big time for you, Paul.
But listen, I think we'll start with United are playing AC Milan at the minute, so we might as well start with United to get the little football side out of the way. Manchester derby. I messaged you numerous times throughout the day saying I was dreading the match.
Yeah.
The form City have been in recently has just been unbelievable. They're obviously 21-0, and but
Like
for
the
the
Undertaker.
like the Undertaker,
Yeah.
for the third year running, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wins at the Etihad.
It's amazing, isn't it? How we were chatting just last week about how poor their run against the top six has been all season, and then it almost felt like it was going to happen. I don't want to say I knew it was going to happen, but you just felt like it was always going to happen.
They've just been so just brutal recently. They've just been passing people aside. We've got this crazy not winning streak, so undefeated streak away at the minute,
Yeah.
which is heading to, I can't remember, the app said, and I think we spoke about it last week, United Power thing, the record's nearing like some sort of world record or something. But even still, I was thinking we are going to get destroyed because we don't play well all the time. We just somehow win. And I think that somehow is called Bruno Fernandes, but
And Luke Shaw turned into prime. I don't know, Paolo Maldini at left back.
he's gone absolute gangbusters, isn't he? Like people have been saying, oh, he's going to be in line for the World Cup squad, and saying it like it's a surprise. You're like, oh, duh.
Yeah, he's actually. I think before this season, he was, maybe not the most underrated player in the world, but I think he was definitely underrated by a large section of football fans in general.
His defending's always been good. Like there was some issues under Jose about placement and being in the right place, but I think that went for all 11
Size.
players at times. Yeah, like Jose, he was Jose's Dele Alli at United. Like just for some reason, and it's suddenly working out for Dele Alli as well under Jose. He's been playing really well lately.
So Gareth Bale. Yeah, funny that.
Yeah, eventually it comes good when you got a manager like Jose. It's going to happen, but that's beside the point. Like he started off so well when we first signed him under LVG, and then he broke his leg in the Europa League.
Yeah, it was a PSV, I think.
Oh, so not
made that up.
Midtjylland.
There.
There you go. Yeah, and then he's struggled quite a bit at times. Sometimes he looks really good, sometimes he doesn't. But he's playing unbelievably. The way he picked up the ball for his goal and just ran the entire length of the pitch, and just it made Man City, like, it was a very different Man City that we played. We just set up perfectly. Anthony Martial, I don't know what he had for breakfast that day, but all fears about him in 90 minutes. You don't want to be reactive to just one match and go, well, he's great. Again, but he was on one as well. So it felt like Ollie, obviously he's got that Sir Alex Ferguson spirit in him because he played under him for so long, of just being ready for the derby. You don't lose against City. It's that Fergie thing.
Yeah. What did you think of Dean Henderson in goal?
Yeah, I think he's done really well. Like David De Gea, congratulations to him. He's had his second child. I don't know if that's true, but I think it is.
That
And
is libelous.
yeah, it's like so he's taken some time off to go back to Spain to be with his kid and his wife. So Dean Henderson stepped up. Apparently, he got told like you're in goal for the next, I think it was 6 or 7 games at least.
Wow.
So, and I think he's done well. We've kept, they're not all been with Dean Henderson in goal, but for a side that's been criticised for defending so much, 5 clean sheets out of the last 6.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
It's not bad. No, and Lindelof and Maguire had a good game as well.
Yeah. And I mean,
just everything went well.
To win and get a clean sheet at the Etihad is a lot rarer than people might think. I remember Wolves did it last year, and I think they were the first team in something like since 2016 to do it. Like, it's actually a rare enough feat.
Yeah, just 6 months after Man City was born. But let's move over to Liverpool.
Do we have to?
We could touch on it briefly. You played Chelsea.
Yeah, actually, I forgot at the start of the show to give you last week's trivia question, which was Liverpool-Chelsea themed. And it was 6 players in the Premier League era have switched directly between Liverpool and Chelsea. How many can you name? Nathan, if I was to tell you there's 6 of them, and the oldest one happened in 2010, I reckon you've got a good chance of getting all 6.
Well, Fernando Torres.
There you go.
Yeah, and I'm done. I didn't have a think. I'd forgotten about this question, as I often do.
Really? I would never have guessed. I'll just give them to you.
Was one Raul Morelos?
Yep, he's the third one.
Oh, he's the third one. God damn.
Torres being second.
Solanke.
Yes, the most recent. Yeah, the last striker Liverpool signed.
Yeah, he's I have really had no hope for Dominic Solanke, but he's apparently having quite a good season in the Championship. So maybe I don't want to say found his level. That might be a bit horrible, and he's still really young. But someone who was touted for greatness, it's not gone terribly well. But in the Championship for Bournemouth, and of course when Leicester capitulated last season, he scored a couple of goals against them.
Fair play to him. One scored against Brighton for Liverpool. That was it. That's as good as it got.
And the rest.
So there's 3 more. One was a loan.
One was a loan?
Yeah, which sounds very strange. Liverpool and Chelsea loaning players.
Any clue?
One was part of Chelsea's Conte team.
Conte team. I'm not gonna get it. No, let's not waste any more time. Go for it. Give us
the first one's Yossi Ben Ayoun, who went from Liverpool to Chelsea in 2010. And then the other 2 you didn't get, Daniel Sturridge, January 2013. Thank you, Rafa.
Of course.
Agent Rafa. And September 2013, on loan, Victor Moses, Chelsea to Liverpool, who, of course, was the right wing back in the Antonio Conte league winning side of 2017.
Victor, now that you've said it, I remember it, but it's one of those ones that you never would have guessed. I had a weird thought. Like, we've not done your weird thoughts for a while.
It just got normal.
Yeah, they just become normal. But I was thinking about this. There's certain things in football that just, because we were on about like, oh, do you remember when this person played for this team? And it's always someone really weird. Like Samuel Eto'o at Everton always comes to mind for me. Yeah. And things like that. But there are people that haven't managed or haven't played for clubs where it just sounds like they should have.
Okay, go on. Give me an example.
Like Mick McCarthy managing Norwich. Don't you just think, like, if someone said that to you, you just go, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I feel that's fair. I feel like he's managed every Championship team at this point.
Like, I know he's been at Ipswich as well, but I feel like that's not an intense rival as someone who's from that part of the world. That's not a Merseyside derby.
What did they call that again? Was there
boring?
A name on that? That's fair enough. Yeah, we'll move on.
There is a name for it, but I can't remember what it is now. Probably like, I don't know, Tractor Derby or something like that.
That's exactly what came into my mind as well. Is that right?
It sounds right, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or maybe there is a Tractor Derby.
I don't know. But yeah, so what are we talking about? Liverpool, Chelsea, yeah.
Yeah.
It was I'm not gonna lie, it was probably the first time all season I felt we were properly outplayed and just second best by some distance. I know you can say the City game, maybe someone's gonna throw at me, but I think we were still in that very much for large portions of the game. And if it wasn't for Allison's sort of losing of his head, I thought we were in for a good chance. But we just weren't very good, and I think it was all summed up with the Salah being subbed off before the end of the game, which felt just the wrong substitution. I don't know if there's like a worse substitutions, like a top 10, but I feel that'd be on the list because Mane and Firmino were offering absolutely nothing. Mane kept squandering chances. Salah looked like he was somewhat creating, chances, and it just wasn't very good. That was the Chelsea game summed up in a nutshell.
It was, yeah, and you are right. Like Chelsea did play really well, and
Yeah.
you just kind of, I think, it's gonna sound weird, like Liverpool shouldn't be losing 6 games at home in a row. And that goes when you're a club of a certain size, like United and like Liverpool, like losing a game, it like you can lose one or stuff, but losing so many, it does feel like a problem. But at the same time, I don't think you've been playing that badly to the point where people are kind of saying, "Oh, the squad needs a complete rebuild."
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. I feel like we're usually the better team. It's just we don't create anything, and the other team, our defense is just not good enough, and we just always concede one. And like you were saying, a team like Liverpool shouldn't be losing 6 in a row. I don't think any team should be losing 6 games at home in a row if you're a Premier League team. I don't even think Derby County managed it in the season. They finished with 11 points. I think as a top team, losing 2 at home on the bounce even that is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. And if we get into the Leipzig game last night, like there was a lot of analysis about I can't remember, I think it was Peter Crouch, who we always seem to talk about, but he's just always a pundit or he's always said something interesting. But
every match, yeah.
I think it was him who was on about you would love to play against this Leipzig side because the way they set up.
Me personally.
I think anybody.
Did he name me?
My God, just absolutely anyone, like any pub side, because the way they set up, and it was very much the same when we beat them 5-0. Like, although, yeah, they did win the game to knock us out of the Champions League, but they actually set up well that game and played better than us, apart from the first 5 minutes when we decided to join in and nearly score 3 in 10 minutes. But like, they were just perfectly set up, and it was a great confidence booster for you guys. Like you were 2-0 up going into it, so you thought, "Oh, Leipzig are going to absolutely go for this," and they just didn't. Like they brought on every striker they have, and for credit for them, they did actually start with a striker this time.
Fair play.
Yeah,
Genius
fair play
idea.
to the guys.
Nagelsmann, well done.
Yeah, good job, mate.
Well, I think it was nice to see. Even like a few additions, like Fabinho back into midfield, Naby Keita starting, which I've not been Naby Keita's biggest fan. And I'd actually completely forgotten the last time he started a game before this one was the 7-0 win at Palace. Just seems so long ago. I could barely remember that. And he played good. Jota looked threatened going forward. Thiago looked like, a midfielder. It was good. We were creating chances. Maybe not as clinical as I would have liked. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to complain about a 4-0 win over 2 legs in a round of 16 game in the Champions League. 2 clean sheets for Nathaniel Phillips at the back.
Yeah, Nathaniel Phillips, he deserves a massive. I'm sure he's plaudits from people who
plaudits. Okay.
Yeah, plaudits like he deserves. He deserves it. He was unbelievable yesterday. He was the absolute, as you called him, prime Vidic to me personally, which I find offensive.
With the headband and everything.
Yeah,
just shaved head. I love it.
Like, and I'm being a little bit critical of Leipzig. I'm coming at it from a slightly more.
Which is
my
fair
God,
enough.
Leipzig, come on! Like, Jesus, the way I was annoyed, and I even messaged Darren. I was like, watching them play and the way they've set up in this match pisses me off that they knocked us out of the Champions League.
To be fair, they're very unlucky because I think we've won 4 of our last 5 away matches and lost our last 6 at Anfield. And they didn't even get the chance to play at Anfield.
No, you won a home game. The home record's improved now. Oh God, do you think years to come there's going to be two people doing another footballing podcast, looking back at the records, and they're going to be like, Liverpool won a home game in Budapest.
It definitely is.
And they're going to be like, a European Super League, bloody hell.
Do you know, I think United once played a home match at Anfield against Arsenal in like 1970. I'll have to do a bit of research on that.
That's a great little
fact. That definitely happened. Yeah, I remember reading that.
Oh, I imagine it was Old Trafford probably being refurbished or something at that point.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'll find out for you. But that Leipzig game was our 8th Champions League match of the season and our 8th different centre-back partnership in the Champions League.
You found one that works. Get Fabinho back in midfield. Fabinho.
He has to be. He has to stay in midfield. He just looks so good. And with Nat Phillips, just, again, prime Vidic. And Kabak beside him, who looked pretty good. You know, he's not going to come in and be Virgil van Dijk. And considering how low I imagine his confidence is right now, I feel that'll do nothing less than boost his confidence somewhat.
It's 100% what he needed. Like there's no two ways about it. I think one thing I will say, just to keep knocking Leipzig, is like
let it go. They knocked you out. Move on.
They did, but once again, like I'm sure he's going to be much better with better players around him when he moves to Bayern. But Upamecano again did himself absolutely no favors.
Oh, he's been touted as this like savior for every team at centre back. Every team seems to be linked with him. But I've watched him play 2 games, and he just wasn't very good.
Yeah, he didn't even play. I think it's no coincidence that he didn't play in the game when they knocked us out.
Funny that.
Yeah, that's no coincidence. We should say as well, we could carrying on the trend of Nathan half watching a game whilst we did a podcast, because
my new favourite segment.
Thursday nights is recording night and also the only European football that matters night. So we are half watching United against Milan. It's not being played in Budapest. It is in Manchester. Milan looking dangerous so far. They just had another shot. Dean Henderson with the save.
They had a goal disallowed early on, didn't they?
They didn't. It was a great hit, but it went to VAR, and it's that bloody handball law that's done at Kessie. They controlled it on his chest. It rolled down his chest and must have tapped him on the arm. He then volleys it into the corner. And it got disallowed because it must have tapped his arm at some point. But yeah, they look good. With that, like Matic is looking a little bit off the pace, and Shaw not being in the side, we don't look as threatening down the left. But we do have a number of injuries as well, as do they. So it's kind of, we've got Martial, Greenwood, and Dan James as our front three. And because there's no Rashford tonight either, no Cavani, or anybody else. But yeah, well. Are there any thoughts for us for this week? Did you have any thoughts?
It's a good question. I've just again doing a bit of thinking. You know, not a lot of stuff to do, is there, Nathan?
There's nothing to do.
One really weird one, and if you have the answer, actually just shout it out, Nathan.
Okay.
But you know, when you're in a nightclub, you know, you're having a good time, you wander off for a second. The lad who works in the nightclub toilets, what is his job title? And is he employed by the nightclub?
That's an excellent question, and I think it depends on the nightclub. Like, I think some of them, it's the club gets a cut of whatever's in the bowl at the end of the night, and but some of them I do think are employed by them. But yeah, the guy who always comes in and he'll always say, this might just turn out to be an Essex thing, but you always go in and they've got all the aftershave, so they go, a bit of splash for some gash.
Oh, God.
Something like that. Yeah, it's awful, right?
Is that an actual thing?
That's what it tends to be.
Good
yeah,
Lord.
It's disgusting, right?
That is grotesque.
Yeah,
if you don't mind me saying.
Best.
I know, the ones at my hometown, lovely. Lollipops.
Lollipops.
And only cost like 50 cents. Class. I hate the people who... I don't like
there. I hate the people.
No, sorry. The people who purposely ignore them after, they finished with the cubicle or whatever, wash their hands, completely blank them and just walk out. Surely you've got 50 cents or just a quid just to throw in the bowl or whatever.
You would think so. Like generally, I'm one of those people. I don't know what you are, Dara, when it comes to change. Do you, when you buy something and you split a note, do you then put the change straight in the wallet, or are you like me and the change goes in the back pocket?
I'd usually go with card. I'd usually just pay with card. But if I was to break a
Oh,
note,
because it's 2021. Yes, sorry, I forgot.
politically correct, I'd probably put it in the wallet. I'd say.
Oh, you're a wallet man. I usually just reach in the back pocket. There's usually
What did you
change
call
in
me?
there. A wallet man.
A walletman. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been called worse.
As all of us.
Yeah.
Oh well, we're going to throw to a break now. Paul's going to come in and join us after the break, and we'll be talking some Scottish football and how Celtic have got on. Which should we just start laughing now?
No, I think we'll be polite to the guest at the start, at least.
All right, we'll be back in a second, guys. Welcome back, guys, to Plus Added Time. Myself and Dara, as we said before the break, is too cheery with considering Liverpool and United both won this week. So we got Paul back from Celtic Fan TV. Paul, how you doing?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me back. How you doing?
Yeah, we're not so bad. You sound so
Better.
great.
Oh, I'm brilliant.
Yeah,
I'm brilliant.
Yeah.
it's been, to jump right into it, it's been a roller coaster. Last time you were here, you were still full of hope. You still had a little sparkle in your eye. You said to me and Dara, you still believe Celtic are going to do the 10 in a row.
When was it? Do you remember what month it was?
End of November, start of December, something
It
around
was
that.
last year.
No, it couldn't have been
It's
that.
a while. It's a while.
Oh, it's been a while ago.
November was right in the middle of that bad run.
When did it end?
It's still going.
Still hasn't yet.
So I guess to get it out of the way, when Rangers finally wrapped up the title just the other day, what was your first reaction? Where were you? What were you doing?
Watching Celtic draw 0-0 against Dundee United.
Oh, just a great night.
Exciting.
My reaction, there wasn't really a reaction. Like, I came to peace months ago that Rangers were going to win the title. I think even after the derby in January, it was maybe a 1%, 2% chance that we could claw it back. And then after the Dubai debacle, that was it done. I mean, it was finished. It's been finished since the middle of January, and it's just a matter of the mathematics closing themselves off. So there wasn't really. It wasn't like. I mean, if we'd went all the way in a title race and lost it in the last day of the season, I'd have been absolutely devastated. But I mean, I came to peace with it months ago. Like, there's been a lot of inquest and a lot of disappointment, to put it lightly, this season. But by the time it came to the fact of it being mathematically done and dusted, no reaction, apathy. I've been stuck in apathy for about 4 or 5 months now.
What do you say about the Dubai thing? There's a number of things that we're going to touch on, because there's quite a few, like, I guess, events with Celtic this season.
Quite a few.
Since we had you last on, there's been a few things that have happened. But when you say the Dubai thing, just explain to people that perhaps didn't realise what happened there. It's quite like a simple event, but it's also a ridiculous one.
Aye, simple but ridiculous. Again, probably a lot of things Celtic have done this season have been simple but ridiculous. So the club, usually in a normal world, would go to Dubai in the winter break, a warm weather training camp, to refresh, recharge, come back and hit the ground running in the second half of the season. And it's worked. It's worked in all previous seasons, just about. They've got everything they want to get from it in all previous seasons, but this was January 2021, obviously in the middle of a pandemic, and not only that, there wasn't a winter break. The SPFL cancelled the winter break before the season even started in Scotland, because the fixture congestion, due to COVID. So Celtic moved a game against Hibs from a Saturday to a Monday night, so that they could have a period of 7 or 8 days in between the game at Ibrox against Rangers and the next league match against Hibs. And Hibs were raging. Hibs weren't happy about it at all. They didn't want the game moved. But the SPFL granted the fixture change so that they could go to Dubai. And when this was done, this was obviously organised in maybe September, October time, when, to be fair to them at that stage in September, October, it was looking all right. It wasn't looking too bad. But as we all know, as we approached November, December and Christmas time, the virus almost took on a new life again. And there was crazy spikes and different variants and all that in play after Christmas, because everyone had mixed and seen family and travelled and stuff. So in hindsight, a lot of people say aye, but nobody was questioning it really before we went. And it's because there was a lot bigger things to concentrate on. Everyone was focused on the game at Ibrox and trying to win the game at Ibrox. And then the club went on the trip straight, like the night of the Rangers game. They went on the plane and they went to Dubai, and that was when we were like, that doesn't really seem right, does it? That the team are away to Dubai, particularly after losing the game. That didn't sit well with a lot of supporters after losing to your biggest rivals and the league effectively being over, that the players were away for warm weather training in the middle of a pandemic. But then it just spiraled out of control. Pictures appeared online of Neil Lennon and Scott Brown drinking at the side of a pool. No social distancing between them and what looked like an old random couple sitting on the sun lounger next to them, and it just got worse and worse. And then obviously at that time, people were just starting to realise how bad the virus had gotten. And then of course, we all knew it. Even before it happened, that someone in the squad was going to pick up the virus. And it just so happened that it was Christopher Julian that picked up the virus, who travelled to Dubai in a knee brace because he was injured. So this warm weather training camp, we took an injured player on it. An injured player who first of all was out for 3 months with a knee injury. And since then, that 3-month injury has turned into a 9-month injury. But we took him to Dubai anyway, where we were assured that it was intense warm weather training, but yet we took an injured man in a knee brace and he picked up the virus. 13 players had to self-isolate, and we dropped 6 points in the space of a week.
Wasn't there a thing about, and I might be wrong about this, didn't Shane Duffy as well just fly on a commercial flight?
I think Shane Duffy left the bubble. I don't know how much of a bubble it was at that point.
Yeah.
He left for personal issues. I think he had some family issue that meant he had to travel back. He ended up actually playing the next game, but I think that was on the basis of two negative tests or something. But he left and went home for personal issues.
Fair enough. We promise this won't just all be negative, but do you think that was kind of, because there was some things about the club backed Neil Lennon still after that, and Neil Lennon made a lot of comments as well, backing the trip essentially. But do you think that was kind of it for him? Even though he hung on for a little bit longer, that was kind of the straw for his kind of the minority that still wanted him to be there?
I think in terms of the supporters, it didn't do anyone any favours. It didn't do anyone at the club any favours. It was so ill judged. It was untrue, and to think that in those weeks leading up to the trip, even after Christmas, because the Rangers game was after New Year, to think that no one at the club stopped and went, wait a minute here, should we just think better of this? We maybe shouldn't go. That is astounding. And in terms of Neil Lennon, the Dubai saga rumbled on much longer than it should have. And one of the reasons why it did so is because 10 days later, after Neil Lennon came out of self-isolation, he went into a press conference and lost it. He sat down and he absolutely lost it. And it just brought it all back up again. So even if he was right in some things that he said about discrepancies about how Celtic are treated in terms of COVID regulations and rules compared to other clubs, and even if there was anything true or valuable that he was saying in that press conference, it was lost behind the tone that he said it in. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it was all brought on by Celtic themselves. I think Neil Lennon was all season. He didn't do himself any favours in press conferences, and he didn't show any contrition for the trip to Dubai. He doubled down on it effectively, and he certainly didn't take enough responsibility for the performances in the pitch either.
Exactly. At that point, when something like that happens, you kind of just got to shut up and win matches. Like say your sound bites and say all your cliches that we all love to hear, but just win matches.
As I say, we lost 6 points. We lost 6 points in that time. So in a situation where we couldn't afford to drop any more points, we drew 3 matches in a row as a result of going to Dubai. And again, there was very little, as I say, contrition or humility shown for the shambles that it was, and effectively it wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back, I suppose, in terms of the league title, but it put it beyond doubt, and it was so unavoidable.
Dara, I don't just want to hog all the questions, so I'm going to throw it over to you.
All right, cheers. Paul, just the fact that it was going to be 10 in a row that you were going to win, and the fact that Rangers won it like so convincingly in the end, what did you make of that?
It's not nice. I don't think anyone expected this season to unfold the way it has done. I think even the most pessimistic Celtic supporter up until any point, if you'd have said, we can see into the future and we're going to lose the title, they'd have thought, right, we'll maybe lose it in the last day, we'll maybe lose it in the last couple of days, last couple of match days. For it to be mathematically concluded on the
early March,
9th of March or whatever it was, the 8th of March, that is bonkers. It couldn't have went any worse. It honestly could not have went any worse this season. And 10 in a row was obviously huge in terms of it being a record, and that no one's ever done it, and it's always been the sort of holy grail of Scottish football, because we done it back in the 70s and we couldn't get 10, and Rangers done it in the 90s and they couldn't get 10, and we've obviously had another opportunity to do it here and we haven't managed it. But even under any circumstances, whether it was 0 in a row or for 10 in a row, like, Celtic shouldn't be losing a league title mathematically in March. And none of the performances, or not none, but the majority of the performances this season have been unacceptable. And the sound bites constantly from Neil Lennon at times, even from the club at times, and from pundits on the club's own media channels at times, was that the supporters were just spoiled, that we were entitled, that we didn't really know what we were talking about. Gordon Strachan, who's been on the Celtic TV coverage more than a few times this season, just keeps telling us how, don't listen to the supporters, like the supporters on Twitter and all that, like they've not got a clue what they're talking about. When for months we could see that this was falling apart at the seams, and the club kept it going to their detriment. That, I mean, as I say, under no circumstances, 10 in a row season or not, should Celtic be trailing by, I mean, at some point it was 9-10 points, then it was 15, then it was 18, then it was 22. Like, it's just unacceptable, and they chose to keep it going for unknown reasons. But I don't know if that answers your question. I'm gonna
Cheers.
Just quite a general football question. I'm going to throw it to kind of both of you, but this season's quite a weird one when it comes to leagues that are usually dominated. Like, because Bayern are top of the Bundesliga, but they're only top by, I think, 2 points. PSG have been struggling in Liga, and I don't know if they're top now, but Lille have been top for a large part of the season. Juventus over in Italy are really struggling as well. And then Celtic over in Scotland. Do you guys think, just in your football opinions, that that's just down to the impact of COVID? Or is something in the water in terms of like the more dominant leagues that are usually more dominated? But it seems to have all happened at once.
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak. Well, I can't. I can give an opinion on the rest of the leagues, but I can only speak in Celtic terms, and I don't want to give the club the get out of COVID,
Yeah,
because I think what COVID has done is strip football back to its basic level, and that it basically just comes down to tactics and mental and physical fitness. There's no, and I know you could look at clubs like Liverpool and Celtic and like that have like massive relationships with their home support, but there's none of that. There's none of that stuff. There's none of that. I think when you take out a full stadium, you lose a lot of ingredients of like almost variables and things that can happen in a football match. As I say, I think it just makes the football very basic, and I think in Celtic's terms, that's why we've struggled this season, because certainly Neil Lennon's Celtic teams have always relied on moments of individual brilliance rather than a robust tactical system that works. It's always been moments of individual brilliance, and when the stadium's full, like the crowd are there to push the team on in bad days and stuff like that, and it just obviously wasn't there this season. So I mean, I don't know. In other leagues, it's hard to say. It really is hard to say. I know Liverpool have had injuries.
yeah.
I think Juventus. I don't think Juventus should have given the job to Andrea Pirlo. I think Tuchel's time is probably up at PSG, and they changed it and went with Pochettino. I think I'm much more inclined to lean towards actual football reasons that you can define and describe than just to say, well, COVID, so it's not really normal football, is it?
Yeah, you just find out who sets their teams up well, because there was a period, speaking of for United, quite a while ago, where we would go one down fairly early on and then come back and win, and that happened 4 or 5 matches in a row. And the thing where the crowd aren't there, so the players stay calm. They don't. You're not got that kind of roaring people getting on your back if you've made a mistake or anything like that. You're able to kind of compose yourself a little bit more. So we're kind of just finding out who tactically, I guess, is the best coaches with who they've got, because they don't have the fans to rely on. There's one. This might be quite random because I don't know how Celtic fans feel about him, but there was something that happened in January that surprised me, and it was young guy Jeremy Frimpong, who just suddenly left towards the end of the January window, and I saw it, and I think I messaged Dara about it, and I went, "Why?" Like, he's gone to Bayer Leverkusen, which like doesn't feel like a step up. I don't know if I'm being really horrible to Leverkusen there, but just a random one that I wanted to pick your brain on. Why did he leave?
I think you're being harsh and that it's not a step up. And that's not to be disparaging to my own club, but just the level that he's playing at now. The level he's playing at now and the shit show that Celtic has been this season. I mean, it's not any surprise that he wanted to get out the door as soon as possible.
But it was it was so late in the window. I don't know if it was the final day. It was either a couple of days before or on the final day.
It was a couple of days before.
Okay.
And if you had the choice, surely.
Would I go to Leverkusen?
I mean,
you're not going to win anything at Leverkusen.
They're called Neverkusen for a reason.
Exactly. They've literally never won anything.
Yeah. I know. I don't know why. Probably because it's a higher level. He will be getting paid more money, and I genuinely mean that. Like, Celtic have had this season with players, big players wanting to leave. Like Neil Lennon saying that he said it after Ferencvaros beat us in the Champions League, that I've got players that don't want to be here, and you could pinpoint that and say that was when it all started to fall apart for him, because if he hadn't lost any players, he certainly started losing them then. And he also said before, a few weeks before he gets sacked, like, there's unknown reasons as to why this season's gone the way that it's gone, and nobody can find out what they are. And I think that's him basically saying the contract situation and players trying to get moves is something that he can't talk about, and he can't come out and pinpoint individuals. But I don't think it's been a great place to be. I don't think the Celtic squad has been a great place to be this season. I don't think there's anything away for that. And I think for a young player like Jeremy Frimpong, he won a treble, didn't he? He came into the first team much quicker than I think everyone expected when he first arrived. He won a treble, and he had an opportunity to go and play in one of the best leagues in Europe and earn himself more money and make the club a good profit, which is needed in COVID times, I suppose, because, I mean, the club did make a point of hanging on to all the key players in the summer transfer window, so it was only natural that someone was going to leave. I know Olivier Cham left on loan as well, with an option to buy to Marseille, but it wasn't a surprise. It was a surprise to me initially that it was him that left, but it wasn't a surprise that someone who left.
What did you think of AVB's effectively quitting his job because they signed Cham? Because he's a good player.
I think that was it. That was
talk about meltdowns. That was massive.
At least Marseille, the Marseille fans were taking even more radical measures than the Celtic supporters to try and get change at their club. At least they got some relatively early. I think that was probably the straw that broke the camel's back for AVB. I think he's got a reputation for falling out with hierarchies.
He said when Marseille, they were bottom of their Champions League group with 0 points, he said to be shit in the Champions League, you at least have to qualify for it. So, which is fair enough.
Yeah. Actually, one more question for me anyways, Paul. Just the fact that Rangers are still unbeaten so deep into the season, does that sort of worry you as a Celtic fan? The fact that they could go through the entire season unbeaten?
Look at the Liverpool fan bringing this up.
I don't. Come on.
Sat there in his Liverpool shirt. Is Steven Gerrard behind you on that wall?
Oh, he's there somewhere. If you look hard enough.
Yes, it's worrying. If I hadn't already said that I don't really believe that COVID is the biggest factor this season, I would tell you that going invincible this season doesn't count because there wasn't any supporters in the stadiums. It's just glorified training exercises, and Rangers seem to be quite good at them.
You sound like a Man United fan.
Second.
Listen, I don't want to see them go. Our next league game is against them, and we haven't performed in a big game all season. Not one, not in Europe, not against Rangers, none. Not had one big performance all season. So I hope we're due one. And to be honest, we have to beat them at least once. And the Brendan Rodgers Celtic Invincibles, they can only match the points total because they've already drawn 4 games. So if the Rangers have to win every single one of the remaining games to match the points total of Rodgers Invincibles, and they'll never be the same as Rodgers Invincibles because that was an invincible treble. And Rangers get put at the League Cup by St Mirren. So I hope we beat them. I hope we beat them twice, but I'll settle for once. Don't want to go see them go unbeaten. Jesus.
I can imagine, yeah.
Looking forward now, because it's all a bit depressing looking behind us at the minute. The obvious question, we asked you it last time, if Neil Lennon goes, who do you want in charge? There's been a few rumours of Steve Clarke coming in. You're shaking your head immediately, so I'm just going to skip over Steve Clarke. Eddie Howe is the other one that immediately springs to mind, and you're nodding. Okay, Eddie Howe. Great young manager. I've said to Dara privately that if they were to get rid of Bruce at Newcastle, I don't want Eddie Howe going anywhere near that job because I like Eddie Howe, and that's a toxic job. Is he the main candidate for you, or is there anyone else?
I think he's the main realistic target for me, and I think he's the one that appeals to most of the fan base. There is a lot of the fan base that think, Eddie Howe, Bournemouth manager, how can he manage Celtic? That's ignorance. It tends to be the older generation of Celtic supporter that holds that opinion. He's the ideal candidate for me. I think there's a lot of similarities with Brendan Rodgers. Again, apologies if I mentioned this at the last time we spoke. Similar to Brendan Rodgers, brought a small club through the levels in England into the Premier League, plays an attractive brand of football, understands the game tactically, seems like a modern, forward-thinking training ground manager, intelligent, speaks well, ticks just about every single box for me, and I think it's a good job for him because, as happened with Rodgers, I know he's not managed a club of Liverpool stature the way Rodgers had, but you can come to Scotland and hopefully win trophies, test yourself in Europe and maybe even the Champions League if you're good enough, and then if you do well at Celtic, someone in the Premier League will take you, because that's what happened with Rodgers, isn't it? Like, he excelled here and Leicester took a chance on him, and now he spent 2 seasons, the majority of 2 seasons, in top 4. I think it's a great job for somebody like Eddie Howe, but I know that Newcastle, you've just said, Steve Bruce clinging on to his job, Roy Hodgson possibly clinging on to his job at Crystal Palace, Southampton, I know they just won at the weekend, was it? But they looked like they were only ever a few games away from maybe considering sacking Hasenhüttl, and all 3 of their jobs are ideal for Eddie Howe as well. Yeah. And I think he wants to. I think there was a report last week or 10 days ago or so that said he's willing to speak to Celtic, but his priority is to wait till the summer and see if he gets a Premier League job in England. And I don't know if Celtic can wait. Celtic can't wait until the summer to see if Eddie Howe ends up with another job and then change plan, because the Champions League qualifiers start
tomorrow
in the middle of June, next week.
Yeah. Yeah, you should probably make the offer to Eddie Howe. That was the other thing, and we United got linked with the guy as well until we did our football director appointment yesterday, which we've not mentioned, but we need to see how that pays out. Who was the guy that you were looking at for director of football? I can't remember his name now.
Ralph Rangnick.
I think that's the one. Yeah. Do you have a director of football at the minute at Celtic?
No, we don't have one. That's a big thing that's been talked about this season. The club has to modernise its football structure. Again, lack of identity and lack of everything really. Lack of youth players making the first team. Lack of tactical identity. I think it's overdue modernising. So we don't have a director of football at the minute. I don't know if, and what you said there, you meant the guy that I was talking about for director of football. I mean,
I can't remember the guy's name. I'd had his name before we started, and then it's just gone.
We've been linked with a few. We haven't been linked with Ralph Rangnick because he's never going to come to Celtic. He's far too big for that. But he's the one. I've actually just finished reading Das Reboot by Raphael Honigstein. It's about German football's sort of rebuild from the early 2000s to winning the World Cup in 2014. And Ralph Rangnick is a big part of modernising German football tactically and even introducing zonal marking and flat back fours to Germany when German football was married to the idea of a sweeper because of the Beckenbauer days and stuff. And he's done really well wherever he's been, and he'd be amazing, but we're not going to get him. The other candidates have been linked with Fergal Harkin from Man City, unbeknown to just about anyone. Never actually been a director of football. He manages Man City's loans. So he's never actually been a director of football.
That's a very specific job, isn't it?
Man City, but in it, I mean,
Chelsea have 10 of them.
I was going to say Chelsea and Man City. They've got about 1,000 players. He's probably the busiest man at Man City. We're linked with David Webb, who worked with Eddie Howe at Bournemouth as well. He was linked with the director of football role. I hope we get an announcement soon as to who it's going to be, because I think we have to. Naturally, you would appoint a director of football first and then a head coach.
It's weird that clubs like Celtic and Manchester United up until yesterday have just never had them, but every club has had them like for years now. It's not been like a brand new revolutionary thing. But
I think I've got a theory on that, and I'm sure there's exceptions to it, but I listened to Jamie Carragher interview an Open Goal a few months ago, and he said that Liverpool was a manager's club, and I think that Celtic's a manager's club. I think that Manchester United's a manager's club as well, because when you talk about the halcyon days of the past at Celtic, you think about Jock Stein, Martin O'Neill, and in probably decades to come, you'll think about Brendan Rodgers. I know you always go to players in terms of, you go to Henrik Larsson and you think about Martin O'Neill, and you'll go to Jimmy Johnson and you think about Jock Stein, but those periods are led by managers, and you talk about Shankly and Busby and Sir Alex Ferguson. Like, these clubs are defined by managerial reigns, and I think British football has always been resistant to the idea of a director of football and a head coach, because we love the idea of a manager running the whole football club, because that was so successful in the past. I don't know what this. Have Liverpool got a director of football now?
Yeah,
they have. Yeah, they've had one for a while. So I think that's my theory on Man United and Celtic. I think Liverpool have just modernised more quickly than Man United and Celtic, but I think it's long overdue.
We say that just as Amad Diallo, who came on at half-time for Martial, scores his first goal for Man United against AC Milan. Well done to him. Dara, have you got a question before we play my little game?
I'm pretty happy to leave it there. I thought that was good insight.
Well, I said we weren't going to look to the past again, but we are. So that was a lie. And Paul, we're going to play a game of Guess Who's Missing from the starting lineups.
Yes, love it.
Very catchy title remains.
Yep, still working on the title. By that I mean I haven't. And I'm going all the way back to 2003, and I'm throwing this over to both of you because it's Liverpool versus Celtic.
Oh, of course.
It is the second leg at Anfield. Celtic would win 2-0 and 3-1 on aggregate. So, and Paul, I'm going to start with you. I'm just going to read you the starting lineup, but I'm going to miss out 3 players. So I will say blank. I'm not saying you've got like a German player called blank. Yep. That would be French, actually. But okay. So I'm going to apologise for pronunciation and also say the lineups are just names. They're not in formation. So I just have to read it because it's
well prepared. Love it, Nathan. Go on.
I'm also going to go back. Okay. Douglas is in goal, presumably. Blank, Baldy, Valgaeren, blank. Lennon, blank. Petrov, Thompson, Larsson, and Hartson.
Yeah, can you run through again just quickly? Sorry.
Oh God, I've got to remember who I blanked now. Douglas.
Yeah.
Blank. Baldy. Valgaeren. Blank. Lennon. Blank. Petrov. Thompson. Larsson. Hartson. That's a great Larsson Hartson. It's the name of a band.
Front 3, yeah.
Cool. Sorted. Am I going to go before? Do you want to answer?
Go for it. Yeah.
Paul Lambert.
Yes.
Didier Agathe.
No.
Didier Agathe didn't play. Who played? Jackie McNamara.
On the bench.
Now then, must have been a suspension or something that night. There was 3 blanks, yeah?
Yeah, you've got one. You got Paul Lambert. So, it's just the final 2. Both are in defence by how it's written down.
Yeah. Johan Mjällby.
Yes. One more.
It's tough. I knew it wasn't just me who struggles with this game.
Dara has never got it right.
Never 100%. I always miss one.
It's the right wing back. If it wasn't Didier Agathe and it wasn't Jackie McNamara.
Yeah, that's usually what I think, but it's usually a centre back playing out of position. I don't want to try and sway you, but that's usually how it works.
Yeah, it's usually Carragher at right back for some reason.
Yeah.
Or the one that I've got you twice with.
Jermaine Pennant, probably.
Yeah, Jermaine Pennant, I think. He's just apparently played everywhere.
1967-8 season. He was the player of the season that year.
Yeah.
Momo Sila.
He's done it.
Well
His
done.
final one.
done.
He gets it. Do you remember who scored for you?
Alan Thompson and John Hartson.
Oh, straight in there. Dari's better
He's
than
got
you.
the DVDs. He's definitely got the DVDs at home.
All right. Dara, over to you.
Okay, right.
By how it's written down, Carragher actually was at
Yeah, he was in during that time, yep.
Dudek.
Yeah.
Carragher, Traore, blank, Risa. Murphy, blank, Gerrard, blank, Heskey, Owen.
Okay, straight away I think I've got two.
Okay, go for it.
So I'm going for Sammy Hoopy at centre back.
Yep.
And who did you say again? Murphy Gerrard, wasn't it?
Murphy, blank, Gerrard.
Didi Hamann.
Yes, straight in there.
Okay. And then Owen and Heskey up top. So there's one more midfielder.
Yeah.
2, 3. Patrick Berger.
On the bench.
Harry Kewell. Is that too early for Kewell?
Not in the squad.
Oh.
Paul, have you got it?
Good lord.
I will say this is a gap in my football knowledge because I don't even know who this guy is. I don't even recognise the name somehow.
I don't recognise the name. Well, it's not going to be El Hadji Diouf then, because he was there on that time.
He played in the first leg, El Hadji Diouf.
Yeah. I think Houle just realised how bad he was at football, and so he just let him out.
I'm going to read you in it after you get it, or after you don't get it. I'm going to read you what this journalist said about this person.
Oh, brilliant! I look forward to this. Do you have any ideas, Paul?
It's not Vladimir Smicer, if you've never heard of him.
It is Vladimir Smicer.
I've been beaten at my own game. You've never heard of Vladimir Smicer? He's going to Champions League final.
Istanbul.
Yeah.
My God, what an awful podcaster I am.
Glad you said it.
This person, whoever wrote this, wrote in their section that they've titled Preamble, "There's to be no El Hadji Diouf for Liverpool, of course, so their fans must suffer the antics of the stunningly ineffectual Vladimir Smicer." Jesus.
I think that's fair enough, if I'm being honest. He was okay. That Champions League final, I don't think he'd scored in like a year and a half before that, and it was his like 35th birthday.
Was he there long?
Yeah, he was there about good 6 years. I think he was Houle's first summer signing. But one thing about him was he once scored a goal that the only footage of it was at Man City away in like December 2002. The electricity went during the match, so there was no like live feed. And the only footage of the goal is CCTV camera from not the Etihad, but what was it called back then?
Main Road,
yeah.
I think it was just after. I think it was when they just moved.
City of Manchester.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We'll go with that.
We'll just say
I'll
that.
take his word.
What a poor guy. But do you have good memories of that game, Paul? Have you seen the game?
Should hope so.
Aye, the 2-0 against Liverpool game.
Yeah.
Aye. I remember watching it. Was
that when you reached the final?
Yes. Aye. John Hartson's goal. Alan Thompson's goal was actually really good as well. He put it under the wall. I think Steven Gerrard might have jumped. Aye. It was really good. John Hartson's goal is one of the most fondly remembered goals of that entire UEFA Cup run. It was rare that John Hartson scored from outside the box, as I'm sure he would tell you himself. But aye, an absolute screamer.
Well, bringing it back to this current Celtic squad, I don't want to upset you again, but obviously we're moving forward now. Does this squad need a complete rebuild? Do you think? Is it that? So it's that bad?
That's that done.
Yeah. Aye, absolutely. It's not. There's multiple things at play. It's not that it's so bad that it needs a rebuild. It's just that we have a few mitigating factors all colliding at once, and that we have 3 or 4 of our big players who have less than 18 months on a contract. So in the summer, they're going to have a year left. We're not going to let it run because their value will be like nothing, or we'll risk losing them for free. Edouard is one of them. I think we all know that Edouard's going to go. Christopher Ayer is the other one who was linked to AC Milan last summer. He's probably been one of our better players this season, which I know isn't hard. But I'd love to keep Christopher Ayer, but I think if anyone comes in with decent money for him, he'll be gone. Ryan Christie is another one who seems like he's widely considered one of the guys who wants to move, Ryan Christie. And again, with coming into the final year of his contract, if a bid comes in for him, he might go. Lee Griffiths has in the same situation with his contract. I don't think MD's going to be queuing up to buy Lee Griffiths given his fitness and his amount of game time this season, but he's another one that could go. Scott Brown is obviously winding down.
Would you keep Scott Brown around?
As a coach, possibly.
Yeah, because he could move it he's just seamlessly into the player coach. He seems to have that about that sort of, you just watch players and you go, yeah, they're going to be a coach or they're going to be a manager. He's kind of got that about him. Yeah,
I agree. I think less as a player coach. Valerie just became a coach if he went and done his badges, and I think there's definitely reason to keep him there, because if we're going to have such a big overhaul, you want to keep the big influential characters there for some continuity. The other problem we have is that we've got a lot of loan players who are going to go back to their parent clubs and never return, hopefully, in the case of Shane Duffy. And
yeah, I didn't even touch his Shane Duffy because it just didn't work.
Good.
Aye, because what happened to him?
Aye, let's leave that one. We've got Dago Laxalt at left back, who's going to return to his parent club. We've got John Joe Kenny, right back, who's probably going to return to his parent club. El Ahmed's gone. Frimpong's gone. So we basically don't have any right backs apart from Anthony Ralston. If obviously Duffy's going to go back, Julien's out for 9 months.
Could I interest you in Phil Jones?
Absolutely.
Oh, cool.
Listen, we're at that stage.
He's been injured for about 5 years now.
Aye, we're probably going to start next season with one centre half.
You can take Ben Davis from Liverpool if you want as well. I still don't think he exists.
Yeah,
but
I don't think he's real.
You can find out
now. We tried to take Ben Davies, and then at the last minute he decided to go to Liverpool.
Yeah. Apparently he was on the bench last night, but they didn't show him on camera, so maybe he isn't real.
No, just a cardboard cutout, Nathan.
I'm still convinced someone told Klopp Ben Davis was available and he thought it was the Spurs left back.
To play at centre back.
Yeah, he made that joke, didn't he?
Oh, did he?
He made that joke in a post-match press conference.
Oh, I didn't mean to steal his joke. Sorry, Klopp.
Maybe that is what he thought. Aye, so we've got a lot of players leaving, and then that's the loan deals and the players running out of contract. But I haven't even talked about the guys who you just want to get rid of because they've had their best days are behind them at Celtic. So there is a massive job on. And John, we spoke to John Kennedy in a fan media press conference last week, and he kind of said that everybody's talking about a big rebuild, but sometimes big rebuilds don't work, and maybe that's not what's needed and stuff. And I understand the sentiment there, but there's no getting away from it. That it's a big rebuild, and I know that it's going to be a massive challenge to change the chief executive, introduce a director of football, change the head coach, and have a massive overhaul of the squad. Like, to do all that at once is fraught with danger, and it might not work, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't stop it from needing to be done.
I mean, you might just have to accept, as it seems like United did when we decided to stick with Ollie, that you're just going to have a couple of lean years as you try and build things. And I know we're still yet to win a trophy under Solskjaer, but things are beginning to go in the right direction, given that we're 1-up against AC Milan at the minute. So and we just beat City at the Etihad for the 3rd year in a row. And would you, as a fan, would you be willing to accept that if you knew there was a project in place?
I would definitely be more patient. I mean, I don't know about a few lean years.
Yeah, but
Can't
lean
afford
years
that,
for you are
surely.
lean years for you are like coming second and winning the cup still. Like-
Maybe. I think I would be more patient, and that's the problem this season. Certainly, and I can't speak for everybody, but my impatience is rooted from the fact that I didn't think Neil Lennon was the right man to be appointed back in 2019 anyway. So from the word go, because I thought the whole setup wasn't correct as soon as it started to go wrong, I didn't have any patience for it. So I would be more patient if I could see a vision. The problem for a lot of Celtic supporters is we don't know what the vision for the club is. Where's the club going? I know they keep talking about the European football restructure in 2024 and stuff, but we can't just coast until then. We can't just like stay in no man's land until that point. So I would be more patient if it was a sort of setup that I thought was going somewhere that could get us back competing in Europe and could, number one, give us an identity and where you can see the progress and you can see where the team is headed. I would definitely be more patient, but I know that that's not the way that Celtic supporters are. You have to win, and next season is the winners of the title next season go straight into the group stages of the Champions League. That is a massive,
really?
massive carrot.
Oh my word!
It's huge. It's huge in terms of the financial implications, because if we get it, then that will really, really help us, because we've obviously had a huge financial advantage this whole time, but we've managed to hand it away by just fucking stepping aside this season and let Rangers win the title. So if Rangers were to get that next season, you could almost be looking at a situation where they start to become the club with a financial advantage. So next season's huge. So yes, I would be more patient if I thought the setup was correct, but it has to be balanced against the fact that there's massive pressure at stake, and ultimately we have to win.
As Pep said the other day, taking a dig at Liverpool, titles are harder to defend than win. So, so.
Cheers, Pep.
he's not wrong. But you say the winners of the SPL go straight into the group stage next season?
Aye, the winners of the Scottish Premiership.
Oh my
I have to correct you, because SPL, yes. It must be the best branding in the world. Because there's people who write about Scottish football that still call it the SPL, and it hasn't been called the SPL for about 7 years.
It just rolls off the tongue.
It's mad though, right? Because like even people, other Celtic supporters, people who watch Scottish football, like know all about it. Sometimes they still refer to it as the SPL. I'm like, it's not been the SPL for 7 years. It's the best bit of branding I think I've ever heard.
SPS. It's not as good.
Aye, no.
But is that into pot one?
No.
Can't be, surely.
No.
No.
No. It'll be pot 3, I would imagine. It probably depends on the coefficient of
sorry about my dog.
The particular club it is.
Yeah.
He's getting excited about Celtic being in pot 1 in 2022-23.
He's just found out I was wrong about it.
Better than going through 20 qualifying rounds, anyways.
Aye, absolutely.
Considering you've won a domestic league and you still have to go through God knows how many rounds just to get to the tournament.
I suggested not long ago that in the Champions League, I don't know what you said about Paul, they should get rid of the pots and just make the draw completely random.
Love that.
How much more exciting would the Champions League be then? Instead of having like Bayern in a group with Dynamo Kiev, Olympiacos and San Marino for some reason. Just like every single season.
City getting Shakhtar because of course they do.
They still would. They would somehow
yeah.
draw Swansea still. No. But imagine that.
That seems like a brilliant idea. Again, the problem with the Champions League is that it does get so repetitive. It's generally the same last 16 every season. There might be an outlier every now and again. It's generally the same teams, and then when you get to the quarters, it's like, oh, that's the same tie as last year, or that's the same tie as 2 years ago, and like you might end up with a situation where two teams have played each other like like PSG and Barcelona, for example, or like there's been so many occasions where those teams have been joining against each other. But I mean, for UEFA's, I don't know what UEFA's justification is for that. I suppose they want to protect the big clubs.
Yeah, I think they're
Money,
just
like
furious that Spurs made a final, and that's why we're getting this reform in 2024. But Dara, have you got any more questions? I've only got one more, but
I don't know. I'm happy with you to lead us out.
Well, this is quite a random question because it's about Celtic Fan TV, and I thought about it earlier. But has it gone like when AFTV, when Arsenal were doing rubbish, their viewership blows up? Have you found that with Celtic not doing so well that you've had more like people coming to Celtic Fan TV? Is it the same thing for you guys? I know AFTV have kind of become a bit parody, to put it politely, whereas you guys are more kind of serious analysis. But how have you found like with Celtic not doing so well with the YouTube channel?
I think the nature of making any fan content is that when you lose, your rivals will watch it. Yeah,
absolutely.
And like you just need to accept. I hated it at the start. Like I hated the thought that was what was that. I knew that's what was going to happen, but like you just need to accept it. There's nothing you can do about it. I think it hasn't. I think COVID and even how badly Celtic have done has hindered the growth of the channel in terms of subscribers. On a random day where you get beat, there might be a spike in views because some Rangers supporters will watch it. But as I say, there's nothing you can do about that, and you just need to accept it. I think we never intended on becoming a parody. Obviously, we don't have, or we try our best, and maybe it's been tested. Maybe it's been tested at times this season, but we try not to have people ranting and raving and just losing the rag for the sake of it, like it seems to be on other channels sometimes. So that attracts viral views and people just watching it for the humour of it, and like we just want to talk about the football sensibly and seriously and stuff like that. So I think it's when you get beat, there's maybe a spike in views, but if it had been normal, I think a non-COVID season where Celtic were doing well, we would have grown probably more than we have this season. So that is what it is, I suppose.
Yeah, and those Rangers fans are... Yeah, I don't know what mentality you get in where you watch your team win. You think, I'm going to go to the rivals YouTube channel. It's a strange world, isn't it?
It's very strange. Like it's not something that I would like. If Rangers lose, I don't think let's go and seek out some Rangers content to listen to or watch. But I suppose it's just listen, each to their own, I suppose. But I would also argue that regardless of what we are saying on the content, even though we're serious and we're not parodying, there's not people losing their head and it's like absolutely hilarious and embarrassing. The people from rival clubs who come onto the channel still act as if that's what's happening anyway, because they'll just come on and like spam with comments and like laughing faces and emojis and all that, and it's like when you actually listen to the content, nothing embarrassing is happening here. We're just talking about the game.
Yeah,
but
you're getting us ad revenue.
Aye. And they're just
on them carry on.
Yeah.
Aye. As I say, that's the nature of it, isn't it? So.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for coming back on. It was good to catch up. I know it's not been the best season for you, but there's still that means there's just opportunity. You know, Neil Lennon's gone. Eddie Howe's going to come in.
Hopefully.
By the time we post this, he'll be the manager.
Hopefully.
Yeah, feel free to tell the people about Celtic Fan TV and where they can find you if they wanna bully you.
Aye.
Or not. Genie, man.
thanks for having me on again. Hopefully, next season you can get me on if Celtic do well. The problem that I have, and I'm not saying this is of you guys, but I've been on a lot of media outlets this season. A lot of like mainstream big media outlets, and I've kind of had enough of it because they don't want to talk to you when Celtic are doing well.
Oh no, we'll still want to talk to you.
They don't be like, oh, it's Radio 1. Have you got 5 minutes to talk about the Celtic game last night where you won comfortably? No, like it's Radio 1. You got absolutely hammered by Sparta Prague last night. Can you give us 5 minutes for news beat? And it's aye. So hopefully next season there'll be a time where I can come on again and be more celebratory and maybe.
It's good to expand because we tend to touch on Champions League and the superior European competition, the Europa League, and the Premier League. But between us, we don't have too much knowledge of Scottish football. But obviously, it is a big league and a big part of UK football, so we want to give it some time as well. Yeah.
Aye. You can find Celtic Fans TV everywhere: YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all at Celtic Fans TV. Simple as that.
And you can find Project Dits and all the other affiliate podcasts at Project DITS. You can find me at Nathan Greenaway. Dara, where can the people find you?
Yeah, Twitter at Gibbons_Dara. Dara DARRAGH.
Dara, who are you playing this weekend?
Oh, good Lord. Wolves, Monday night football. First time in ages.
Paul, who are you playing this weekend?
No one.
No one.
We've got a free week.
The club is dissolved. Rangers.
We've got a free week because the Scottish Cup was put back. The Scottish government and the authorities postponed lower league football during the spike in COVID and stuff, because obviously they don't have the testing capability and the finances to be doing regular testing. So they paused the lower league season, which meant they had to pause the Scottish Cup. It's coming back now, but this is just the weekend where like the fourth round was scheduled. So it's been moved to like the beginning of April. So it just means there's like an empty weekend. Our next game is at Celtic Park against Rangers.
Oh, lovely.
On the 21st of March.
Hope it goes well, yeah.
So that.
I hope so.
I can't remember who we're playing this weekend. I think we're playing West Ham. But we're both going to win, right, Dara?
Yeah, we're away from home, so we're definitely going to win.
Not at home in Budapest. But thank you very much for listening, guys. We'll speak to you again next week. Bye now.
Cheers. Good luck.